Okay, so our recording is there, and as everybody knows, if you go to YouTube, or if you don't know, go to YouTube, click Chatham Rotary, and our speakers will come up. Now, this will take a day or so for it to process and be on there, but I was quite happy to go on and found a couple of other people, speakers previously, and it comes through very good. As well, we're still being picked up by Cogeco, so it's also going on Chatham TV on a pretty regular basis. You just have to look for a Rotary keynote. But if you want to watch something on your own time, just click in, it's there. Now, with regard to Ashish, a very interesting life for this gentleman. He was comes from India, formerly, I'll call it Calcutta, because that's where I need to be. Whoops, what do I got to do here? Hang on a second. Whoa, that could have been bad. Okay, we'll hopefully we had something show up on our screen that should have been there. So Ashish was born in India, and his father was a police officer. His mother was a homemaker. His grandfather was a Gandhian and a freedom fighter. Ashish was introduced to the issues of peace and justice at a young age in his childhood, and his grandfather and his parents helped him along with that. He went to a Catholic school run by European Jesuits, and the philosophy has had a big impact on his life when he was younger. He came to the US on a full scholarship at the University of Michigan in 1971. He completed his engineering education in Ann Arbor, and with a double master's degree in mechanical engineering and marine engineering. He worked in the industry after graduation, married his wife Norma, and I believe I read in here 43 years in 2021. So congratulations to Norma and Ashish. 3 grown children, and they're all young professionals. And I think I saw, was it last year, the wedding of a daughter, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so Ashish had a 42-year career. He worked with Consumers Energy for 20 years. He was a general engineer and a senior vice president. He moved on to a New York-based Ogden Energy as a group president and ran their Asia business, and ultimately became the chief executive officer of internal business. He worked for Global Energy Company based in London, England, I presume. And he was the chief development officer of the global business for 4 years. Here's where it gets good. Ashish has always gone with community service. He worked with the Jackson JCs from 1974 to 1986. He was a chapter president and had many statewide positions. He became director of US JCs for a 2-year term and served on the board also served on the board of the Jackson County Salvation Army. In 2002, he joined the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor, served on the board of directors. Was the president of a group that had 330 members, 2015, 2016. He served as the district chair for District 6380 on finance, and currently holds the position of foundation chair. And he's had that since 2016. Let's see, he's was a convener at the Rotary International World Peace Conference, which was held at the University of Michigan campus in 2017. Works 2 to 3 year terms at the New Center in Ann Arbor, serving for nonprofits in Washtenaw and Wayne counties. And sorry, there's about 3 or 4 more here, but we want to get we want to get to Ashish because that's the important part. So we'll welcome Ashish, and look forward to your presentation, and hopefully we can make our sound pass out to everybody.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me, everybody? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Past President Brett, and fellow Rotarians and distinguished guests. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you. Original plan was to be there in person, which I could have, but I came down with breakthrough COVID about 3 weeks ago. And my doctors tell me that if I tested, although I'm clean right now, if I tested, I will test positive. So that will preclude me from crossing the border. So thank you, Brett, for making this alternative arrangement for me so that I can speak to you. I was really looking forward to seeing many of you. I have visited your club several times in the past, and I have many friends there and many fond memories. Again, congratulations. I know this is your club's centennial year. Congratulations to all of you, past, present, and future members, for serving your community so well for almost 100 years. We are about 106 years old right now in Anna. Okay, can you move the slide, Brett?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just speak. There, next one. Okay, November is Rotary Foundation month, as most of you know. We would like you to be a part of the foundation and make a difference in the lives of people who need it most. And more on that towards the end of my my presentation here. Next slide, areas of focus. You know, we have had 6 areas of focus for many, many years. We added environment as the new initiative this July, which is the beginning of this Rotary year. And that has taken on as a wildfire, especially with younger generation. You know, there are clubs being opened all over the world. These are called cause-based clubs with environmental focus. So there are many, many clubs. I don't know if you have heard or not. I saw a clip from International President Shekhar Mehta that we just reached 1.4 million members. We have been at 1.2 million for last 12 years. And his thing was this year that, you know, bring one and join, you know, make your friends join. So this is the 4th month of the year, and we have 1.4 million members. Now, granted, some of them will drop by the end of the year and whatnot, but his goal was 1.3, and we are at 1.4. So that's a fantastic news for, you know, Rotary International, which has been sitting at 1.2 million. District Foundation Committee, next slide, please. This is my team of 10 people, which is called Foundation Committee. And all the names are familiar to many of you. If you don't, their contact information is on the website. And all of us are there to serve you. You know, so please, if you have a question on anything, you can always call me, but you can call any of these people who have these special assignments for different types of grant. It's Jason Whipple. For district grant, it's Joe Bauman. Both of them, we gave out money, matching funds. And then we got Polio Plus, David McGuire, who is in your neighborhood there, and Julie Dunbar. And then others are EREY, and I'm going to touch base on many of those. So next slide, please. Every Rotarian every year. This is a synonym. This is a name that's given to one of the funds that you can donate to at Rotary Foundation. And most of the individual Rotarians, unless they are giving million and hundreds of thousands of dollars and so on and so forth, they usually give it to this fund every year. The expectation is that you give at least $100. It's an expectation. It's not a requirement or anything. And you give $100 to EREY, and you give it to a fund called the share fund. Okay, it's World Fund / share. And your club does that for you when you tell them that it is for EREY. So what it does is, of course, as I said, donation is voluntary. Uh, Donations are tax deductible in the US. I don't know. I'm not an accountant. So I don't know what the situation in Canada is. So you have to figure that out. And the good thing about when you donate to this fund, EREY or World Fund / share, is 50% of the amount donated is returned to the district after 3 years of investment, including interest. So in other words, what you donate today as a club, and then it's combined with all the other district clubs, it is invested by TRF for next 3 years. And then whatever the amount is plus interest, half of that comes back to district as DDF, which is district designated fund. And that's what is then divided into by my committee or whoever the committee is a given year to 3 different buckets. One is actually 4. One is the district designated district grants, which all of you participate. The second one is global grant, which Brett just mentioned about sending $18,000 to Rachel Project, which is being led by my good friend and your club member, Peter Tanner. And he has done a phenomenal job. And district gave $10,000 of matching fund for that. So that's how you do it. And then we also are not obligated, but we have tried to, for past 6 or 7 years, given 20% of our DDF that we get to Polio Fund on your behalf. And then the fourth one is we don't have the scholarship recipients every year, but once in a while we do. This is global grant scholars, where the same formula as global grant scholars, global grant projects are used. They are used to send someone for master's degree. It's a 1-year program. Now, please remember that this global grant scholar is different from Peace Scholar, which has different sets of requirement, and Peace Scholar doesn't require any donations from club, but Global Grant Scholar does require that. We have had in the past several of them, and so that's one thing. So district designated fund, this year we had about 44,000 for district grant, and for the remainder about $69,000. And I'll talk about that later. So please remember, it's important when you give every Rotarian every year that it comes back to you. Next slide, please. The other opportunities for TRF donations after you have donated to EREY and Polio, those are our priorities. You can also donate to Rotary Foundation Endowment Fund. That is about over $1 billion right now, ERF, and it keeps growing. Areas of focus fund. For example, if a member of your club has given individually $1,000 or $500 to Rachel Project, and if he wants credit for that for his Paul Harris Fellow, he can do that directly and tell the TRF that, this is for global grant project number such and such. So his or her donation will be credited against his name and will count towards Paul Harris Fellow. Whereas if you collect within the club his donation, it just goes as club money. So that's something to remember. Now, I wouldn't do that for everyone who gives $20 or $30, but if there is a significant donor of $1,000 or $2,000 specific to that project, and that happens once in a while, you might consider sending it separately, and so that he or she gets the credit for Paul Harris. Direct funds to grants, you can do that, any grant that you have. And then TRF Disaster Relief Fund, which is, again, it's a special ad hoc fund. They take donations for that, but that gets into high gear when Rotary Foundation decides to really help. For example, last year, the TRF gave out $39 million for special COVID fund projects. So, but that's once in a while. Next slide, please. And all these donations that I mentioned, whether you give it to EREY or some other fund, you are eligible for Paul Harris Fellowship, credit. Now, this is a big thing for us, Polio Plus donations. We have been working on this since 1987 in cooperation with originally with World Health Organization, US CDC, Center for Disease Control, UN, UNICEF, and then Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation joined us about in the 90s, I believe. And Gavi, which is the Vaccine Alliance, has joined us recently. They are good in, logistics for vaccine supply and so on and so forth. But this is, again, there is a 2-to-1 match for every dollar that you give. So if you give $1, it becomes $3 with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation match. And that has been going on for now 4 or 5 years. So you have to keep that in mind. Again, this is tax deductible, but this donation counts towards Paul Harris credit, but it does not come back. It is a pass-through. Rotary Foundation does it as a pass-through to Polio Plus Fund. Our commitment for this year and next 2 years for this fund is $50 million. That was increased last year from 35 to 50 million, and 50 million becomes 150 million a year. For 3 years, it's 450 million. So just remember that get to that point, we need donations from individual Rotarians. And of course, if you have fundraising, if you have any other alternative to raise funds, it all goes to Polio Plus. Next slide, please. District grants, I think these are all in our website. So, you have participated in district grants. These are pretty straightforward. One thing I would like to mention, that the typical project size is 500 to 5,000 for club contributions. And the district matches 50% of that amount. So if you have a $500 for a project, we will give you $250, and a project size will be $750. If you have 5,000, we'll give you $2,500 with total project investment of $7,500. But that's the maximum amount. We do not match anything over $5,000. So that's one to keep in mind. And of course, every dollar that you put in gets 50%. Now, district grants do not have to be in one of the 7 areas of focus as global grants are. So you can do anything locally, most in your community, or you can do internationally in conjunction with another Rotary International Club. It's not a requirement that you have a club. If you have a good NGO partner in another country, you can just partner with them. But we require some local involvement because, as you know, and Peter will tell you, and I will tell you, that anytime you do projects abroad, you have to have local supervision. So that's the district grant. Next. Global grant is a little different. It's again, it falls on one of the areas. The other important aspect of global grant is you can partner with anybody around the world. You have to have a local partner where the project is being implemented, and that local partner will have to be a Rotary club. But you can have many other partners, especially NGOs, and actually, for unlike the district grants, for this global grants, you are allowed to pay contractors and even your partners, who are not Rotarians, for their work. For example, if you're digging a well, if you get a contractor, you are supposed to compensate for their work, including their labor. A lot of times you hear that we're not supposed to pay for labor, or we're not supposed to do this, we're not supposed to do that, but you are allowed. So go to the Rotary International Global Grant section or in our website, district website, and you can see all these requirements. Project costs for a global grant has to be a minimum of 30,000 and maximum of 400,000. Next slide, please. By the way, you can do global grant locally in your country. All you have to do is have an international partner to do that. As you know, recently we did a huge $100,000 COVID grant project in Detroit area, greater Detroit area last year. Very successful. And we had 15 different clubs from here and overseas in 3 continents involved. And so you can do it. It's not, when people talk about global grant, they immediately think, well, we have to go to Guatemala or India or Africa and whatnot. Granted, a lot of global grant projects are done in those countries because that's where the needs are. But if you have a need and if you can justify, especially in community development area of focus, you can do it. Okay. Okay, next slide, please. Again, it's just the steps that you need for global grant. It's little more, I wouldn't say complicated. It's little more time consuming than your 1-page district grant application. And you have to really show them that these projects where we are making investments have a sustainability plan for long term. That's what they're looking for. It's not in and out. And then, you build something and then they just lack of maintenance or whatever, it just crittered and we lose all our investment. So that's what they are trying to avoid. The people in Evanston or wherever you go, they are very good. They're trying to help you, but they're also trying to make sure that you have, proper things in place so that it is a successful project. Next slide. Financing components of global grant, of course, direct club contribution, district designated fund, and Rotary Foundation matching grant. Next slide, please. Sources of contributions, club foundation. I believe your club has a foundation of its own. That's right, Brett?
Right.
Yeah, okay, so that you can take money out of there. Individual member donations, as I talked earlier. Specific fundraising for project, you are allowed to do a fundraising, and then, but everything has to come to your Rotary Foundation or your Rotary Club and then transferred over to TRF. You cannot take a check from a business and have it, directly paid to TRF. But that should not be a problem, especially if you have a club foundation where you can give them the, acknowledgement slip. Local community donations, business and individual joining the other clubs for pool donations. Now, Peter is expert on that. You can talk to him how to, get other clubs. And we also have relationship, for example, sometimes at district level, we will help another district funding their project. So then we can go to that district to have fund our project. So there is reciprocity there. So just come to us when you have something and then we'll talk about it. Okay, next slide. Sources of district designated fund. Of course, your district designated funds. Solicitation of donations from other DDF, as I mentioned. No limit for DDF funding. For example, there is no specific formula that if your club paid 5,000, district will match half of it or 2/3 of it. In many cases, if it's a good project, district gives you more money because you have been able to not only give your club funding, but you have been able to get funding from other sources. So it's an individual thing. We have a 5-member committee in our district. They are basically, and Barry is part of that. They are basically past district governor. They know how these things work, and they decide, how much and what kind of projects. Next slide, please. Okay, because we had so much success, and I'll give you some example. How much time we have? About 5 minutes?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. We had so much success in doing the global grant. It started about 9 years ago. And when it started, first year, they funded $39 million in global grant. And then this past year, we funded $98 million in global grant. So it doubled, more than doubled. In the meantime, the World Fund only increased by 6%. So there is a disjoint. 100% increase in outlay and 6% increase in income. So what is happening is they're running out of money. So what they did was they decided to, TRF match was always 100%. They decided to 100% of this DDF, and they decided to cut it to 80%. And they used to match 50% of the club contribution. They have taken that away. So it has become more competitive and less funding for matching than what it used to be. Okay. Next slide. This is an example of what is happening right now. Your club contributes 20,000. Your host club, which is on site at the other end, 2,000. DDF funding is 10,000, which is matched only 8,000. In the past, that 20,000 would have been matched 10,000, but that's gone. 2,000 would have been matched another 1,000. So total is your contribution of 20,000 becomes 40,000. So it's still 2 times, but in the past, we have been able to do 5 to 7 times in many cases. Now, another way to look at it will be if Chatham was only giving 5,000 out of 20,000, then Chatham's outlay will be 8 times of 40,000. Anyway, it's just how you project it. So, okay. Next slide. This is what we did this year so far. I told you that we have $57,000 distributed in 33 district grants to 16 participating clubs. Now we have 47 clubs, but only 16 applied for it, and we were able to really give everybody what they wanted except one club. 69,000 is available for district designated fund. 20%, as I mentioned earlier, is usually allocated for Polio Plus. Remainder is set aside for global grants. We have right now 5 global grants currently in the pipeline. So if you have a global grant, please apply. And all I need in the application in the beginning is your synopsis of the project, how much you are expecting to spend, and how much you are expecting to collect from what source. So those are the 3 things we need. We take it to our experts, and they bless it, and then we give you a go-ahead, preliminary go-ahead to really start the project. Next slide. Okay, so that's all I have. And again, if I go to the first slide, I made an appeal that, November is Rotary Foundation month. If you're already out of giving, you don't have to, as long as you do it before July 1, you will get credit. And the money will be used. So please consider giving. I will put in a pitch here. If you are looking for giving $100 to EREY, I tell people all you have to do is every day of the year, put in a quarter. What do you call quarter? I think loony and toonie. Quarter is quarter, right? In Canada, you just put quarter in a jar, and I'm using US terms here. And then at the end of the year, you will have $87 and some cents. And then you just give Christmas gift of $12 and make it $100. If you are shooting for $1,000 for your Paul Harris, that becomes $250 a day in a jar. And then at the end of the year, you throw in another $100 and you're at $1,000. So it's very easy. It's just mindset, and I'm not trying to sound like Shriners or anybody else, but that's how you do it if your mind is set to give money to these projects. And this is a phenomenal thing. You get matching fund. The Rotary Foundation is a 5-star rating. We only use 2.5%, including promotion and fundraising out of every dollar that you give. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any question, I am willing to entertain. And if you have to really go, I'm willing to hang around. And by the way, I did not cough. Man, that's pretty good.
I was hoping that you would get through this without too much trouble. So you did very well, Ashish. I do see Barry had a question, and if anybody else has a question, I'm going to ask you to come up here. But Barry, go ahead. Whoops, are you on mute?
You're muted.
Kind of the way we like.
Yes, President Brett. I want to point out that when we're listening to Ashish, that Rotary has a 2-for-1 deal. His wife Norma brings a great deal of value to Rotary, both within her club in Ann Arbor, and of course keeping Ashish going in the right direction. Right, Ashish?
Well, somebody introduced me to the club meeting today. Ashish Sarkar is here, and he is Norma's husband. So I put in chat. I said, yes, I have been Norma's husband for 43 years, but I do a few other things too.
Yeah.
Rotary. So, yeah, that's what happens when you have a has-been,
Well, you've indicated how easy it is to do EREY, every Rotarian every year. And I do that, and it's a no-brainer, really. And I find that donating through to the areas of focus are too. So I want you to say, how easy is it to donate on the Rotary Foundation website?
It's just, you just fill out a form. It's called EN121. Okay. And it has all the things. Yeah, it has your name, your Rotary, Rotary number, Rotary club number, all you can find in, and then just fill out that form and send it in with your check, or you can do it online. It's very, very easy.
Yeah, well, it's very easy online. I can vouch for that.
Yeah,
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
But you have to mention that, it's for this global grant, or it is for this focus or whatever. A lot of the AKS, which is the Arch Club Society members, they when they give 250,000 or whatever, they will say that half of it goes to Peace Fellowship, half of it goes to World Fund or whatever. You can assign anything you want to do, but you don't have to be a $250,000 donor to really do that. Obviously, if you pay $20, you don't want to do it. But if you have 500 or above, you might as well get credit for Paul Harris and do it that way and let your club know that you have done it that way. Any other question?
Any other questions? I think we're good on this side. Many of us have been around Rotary for a little bit, so we know and understand how things are going. But one thing, just so that our club does know, we last year, Barry and I were working on a project for the Rotary Park that is on the Thames River, and hopefully working that towards a pollinator garden, as well as a new bench and a new wheelchair accessible picnic area there. And then since that park has a bit of a problem with some people trying to remove plaques, we were thinking about an engraved stone that would be put in there celebrating our 100-year anniversary. So we've actually received, I think, the okay that those funds will be coming to us. And so we'll put up money, district's putting up money, and this project hopefully for early 2022, we'll get that garden update.
Right. I think it's a $7,500 project. Yeah, you guys are putting up. Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look at the paperwork we sent in some time ago. So anyways, we're excited, that will as well commemorate our 100 years. So that'll be good. Well, Ashish, we just want to thank you very much for coming in and starting our Rotary Foundation month off with a talk from our district chair. So it is very much appreciated, and I'm so happy that you were able to get through without the coughing spell taking over. So we know those can happen.
And I can tell you, your every penny that you give is appreciated so much. All you have to do, and like I have done, I've been to all 5 continents for global grants, and the people's eyes will tell you how much they appreciate. They may not talk your language, they may not, and it's just, same thing with polio drops. When you go to the immunization day, somebody before going, somebody asked me, he says, boy, it's a long ways to go to Ethiopia or India to put 2 drops and then come back. I said, all you have to do is see the people who are following you while you are doing that, or watching you with tears coming down their eyes. And, it is just wonderful. And then on the other side, I can tell you a story in Guatemala when we were doing our first pilot project, which was micro lending. And I went there for a checkup halfway through the project, and we went to this lady's home, and these people don't even, and Peter will tell you, this is the northern part, they don't even speak Spanish, they speak their own language. So through interpreter, I am there, couple of people from our partnership, they were there, local clubs, and this lady saying, no, I'm not going to talk to anybody. So the local guy who is his contact, he says, what's the matter? And he says, well, we have this cluster. We put five ladies in a cluster, and they kind of keep an eye on each other to make every month's payment. one of the lady had not paid, missed 2 payments. So the guy says, but she has paid. Don't you know she has paid? He says, yes, I know she has paid, but she has not apologized to rest of us for missing those payments. So, I mean, this is the type of thing. These are dirt poor people, but you just do so much than just giving them money. You build confidence in them, you build, sense of pride. They keep books, they know how to do it's just remarkable how much your dollar stretches to do things. I can tell you this story in Bangladesh when we started but anyway, that's long story. But everywhere you go, and it's worth going. I think, and I'm sure Peter will ask you, go to one of these Rachel projects. I'm sure you will be driving 4 hours for 100 miles or 6 hours, and your back will be, shot by the time you go there because there's no spring in the trucks. But please do, those of us who have done, it has changed our lives. And I think it has affected us more than it has affected the beneficiaries at the other end. So that's all I can say. Just be generous. It doesn't have to be $1,000 or 5,000 or whatever, but whatever you can give, please do, both to polio as well as EREY. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ashish. Really appreciate it. Okay, so just a reminder, as everybody now knows, it's a foundation month. And coming up next week, November 9, District 6380 has a foundation and membership gala with guest speakers and a special induction for new members. Jennifer Jones will be on hand. So if you can make it, that would be great. The cost is $30. You can register through the district website. And I understand we don't have too many at this point. So if you're interested, absolutely anytime to hear Jennifer Jones, it's kind of worth it. And for a fee of $30, that's not too bad. And as I said, they have a new members induction conducted by Jennifer Jones. So just check out the district website.
And Mike McGovern, who is the head polio guy, is the other keynote speaker. So you'll hear a lot about,
Great, thanks again. Okay, so that's it for the Good of Rotary. We thank everybody for coming. And next week we will have Stan Sharp. Most of us know who that is, and Stan will be joining us and going over some of the history with regard to Remembrance Day, and we look forward to that. So thank you all for coming, and thank you very much, Ashish. Really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it very much, this opportunity, and I believe me, when the border opens, I'll be there just to see you guys.
Come anytime.
Long time. Yeah. Take care.